Imagine a young man rushing into a temple one morning, laptop in one hand, phone in the other, eyes heavy with sleep, but dressed in a sharp blazer. He bows down quickly, looks at the deity and whispers, "Please help me finish this presentation on time." Everyone in the temple chuckled, but I smiled, because that moment, so small, so innocent, showed me something profound. We don't work anymore. We worship work. And yet, the same people who treat their job as a god also feel the most miserable. Why? Because we've made work our identity, but we haven't made it our integrity. Ladies and gentlemen, your work defines your life, but how it defines it depends on you. Not just what you do, but how you do it and why you do it. That is what makes your work powerful. So today, let's explore how your work can be your path to peace, your tool for transformation, and even your offering to the world. If you do it with purpose, there's something subtle yet incredible about the relationship between the work we do and the person we're becoming in the process. Most people think work is just about earning a living, climbing the ladder, or securing a future. But in truth, your work is shaping you more than you realize. It's not just a means to an end, it's a mirror, reflecting back to you the kind of human being you are becoming. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man who worked as a security guard at a residential building. Every day, he would sit quietly at the gate, open it for the cars, greet people politely, and follow his routine. Most residents barely noticed him. To them, he was just doing his job. But there was one little boy who passed by him every morning on his way to school. One day, the boy stopped and asked, "Uncle, why are you always smiling?" The guard chuckled and said, "Because every time I smile, someone else does too." That child didn't understand it then, but years later, he recalled that moment as one of the first times he learned that work is not about the job you do, it's about the energy you bring to it. That guard could have seen his job as boring or meaningless, but instead, he saw it as an opportunity to spread kindness. He wasn't just opening a gate, he was opening hearts. I'm a doctor or I'm a manager at a tech company. The room pays attention. But if someone says, "I'm a janitor," suddenly people stop listening. And that's where we go wrong. Because no matter how big or small the role looks from the outside, every single job is a classroom, and every single task is a teacher. And you, my friend, are a student. Whether you're serving coffee, leading a team, managing a business, or cleaning a floor, life is watching who you are becoming in the process. Are you becoming more patient with difficult people? Are you becoming more humble despite your success? Are you becoming more disciplined, more attentive, more grateful? These are the silent questions work asks us every day. You don't need a better job to become a better person. You need a better perspective. Let's take a real life example. Imagine two people working at a call center. They're doing the same job, answering calls, solving customer problems. But one of them is always frustrated, complains about the hours, gets irritated with customers, counts minutes until the shift ends. The other person, calm, kind, listens carefully, sometimes even prays silently before picking up each call, hoping to make a difference in someone's day. Same job, but one is just enduring it, the other is evolving through it. The job is the same, the person is becoming different. It's easy to think, I'll be a better person when I get that dream job, when I work with better people, when I have more freedom. But growth doesn't wait for perfect conditions. Growth happens in uncomfortable conversations, in stressful deadlines, in moments of failure and humility. That's where character is built. When I travel and meet people, I often ask, what did your work teach you this week? And the most inspiring answers never come from the CEOs or the high performers. They come from the people who've learned to treat their job as a spiritual discipline. They say things like, I learned to stay calm when my client yelled at me. A colleague who tried to bring me down. That, my friends, is the real promotion, not in salary, but in self. Every day at work is an opportunity to become more of the person you were meant to be. Let your work refine you, not just define you. You can't always choose your job, but you can choose how you show up for it. You can choose to be excellent, to be kind, to be ethical, to be consistent. And when you do that, you won't just become a better worker, you'll become a better human being. Because at the end of your life, people won't remember your job title. They'll remember how you made them feel. They'll remember your integrity, your honesty, your warmth. And all of that begins at work. So tomorrow morning when you step into your workplace, ask yourself, who am I becoming because of the way I work? Because your work is not just shaping your career, it's shaping your character. And your character will shape your entire life. Purpose is the soul of work. Without it, even the most exciting jobs can feel empty. And with it, even the most mundane tasks can feel sacred. Let's pause for a moment and think about a candle. A candle burns itself out to bring light to others. But what's interesting is, the wax is not what gives the candle meaning. The flame is. The flame is the purpose. Without it, the candle's just decoration. In the same way, without purpose, your work is just activity, just movement, just hours passed and energy spent. But with purpose, your work becomes alive. It breathes meaning into your life. It becomes a source of fulfillment, not just a means to survive. There's a beautiful story about a young woman who worked in a hospital as a janitor. Every day she cleaned hallways, scrubbed floors, and emptied trash bins. Most people never even noticed her. She didn't wear a white coat. She wasn't diagnosing patients or performing surgeries. One day, someone asked her, "Do you ever wish you had a more important job here?" She smiled and said, "But I already have one of the most important jobs here." She continued, "I clean the pediatric ward every day, and I always think a child recovering from surgery shouldn't have to worry about germs on the floor. A nurse rushing to save a life shouldn't slip on a wet hallway. If I keep this place spotless, maybe I save a life too, in my own way." That right there is purpose. The job didn't change, the salary didn't increase, but the mindset transformed a routine into a mission. You see, when you work without purpose, you count hours. But when you work with purpose, you count impact. Many people wake up each day dreading not because the work is hard, but because they don't see why it matters. They feel like a cog in a machine, repeating the same tasks over and over again, disconnected from the outcome. But what if you paused and asked yourself, who benefits from the work I do? What kind of energy am I sending out into the world through my efforts? What legacy am I leaving behind, one task at a time? Purpose doesn't have to be this grand, glamorous thing. You don't have to be saving the planet or leading revolutions. Purpose is simply doing what you do with the awareness that it matters to someone, somewhere, in ways you may never fully understand. Let me give you another example. A man who owned a small tea stall in a busy city was once asked by a traveler, "You've been making tea for 30 years. Doesn't it get boring?" He smiled and said, "Not when I see the tired rickshaw drivers smile after the first sip." Connection, a pause in a fast world. Purpose makes the ordinary extraordinary. It turns a baker into a bringer of joy, a mechanic into a guardian of safety, a teacher into a builder of nations, a delivery driver into someone's moment of relief. And here's the most powerful part. You don't find purpose in the job. You bring purpose to the job. If you keep waiting for the right career to show up so you can finally feel purposeful, you'll spend your life waiting. If you keep waiting for the right career to show up so you can finally feel purposeful, you'll spend your life waiting. If you keep waiting for the right career to show up so you can finally feel purposeful. But if you bring purpose into what you're already doing, then any role, any task, any job becomes meaningful. How? By remembering that work is not about titles or trophies, it's about service. Whatever you do, ask yourself, how is my work helping someone else live better, feel better, do better? It could be a mother preparing meals for her family with love, a bus driver who greets every passenger with a smile, a software engineer who writes clean code because someone else's life will depend on that system running smoothly. Every act, no matter how small, becomes sacred when done with the awareness of service. That's purpose in a world that constantly tells us to chase promotions, fame, and wealth. Purpose gives you strength in hard times. Because when the days are long, the pressure is high, and the rewards are few, it's your purpose that will keep you going. It's the inner knowing that what you do matters, even if no one applauds you. And remember, you don't need 1 million followers to make a difference. You just need to live with intention. Your purpose doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be real. So the next time you feel tired, bored, or disconnected at work, remind yourself, it's not the job that makes it meaningful. It's the purpose you pour into it. Let your work become more than a task list. Let it become a way of touching lives. Because purpose is not something you find out there. It's something you awaken within. And once you do, your work becomes your joy, your calling, your contribution to a better world. There's a tendency in our world to measure the importance of work by its size, its glamour, or its paycheck. We are conditioned to believe that the more public, prestigious or powerful the job, the more value it carries. But here's the truth. There's no such thing as a small job when it's done with big intention. He replied with genuine pride in his voice, because when I clean this classroom, I prepare a space for the next scientist, the next doctor, the next leader to grow. If this room is fresh, maybe their mind will be fresh too. That moment is unforgettable, because what he understood is something most people miss. Your intention gives your work its nobility. It doesn't matter if you're a janitor or a judge, a delivery driver or a designer. If you do your work with intention, presence, and purpose, your impact ripples far beyond what the eye can see. Think about it. Have you ever walked into a cafe where the barista handed you your coffee with a warm smile, called you by name, and asked how your day was? You feel seen. And yet, it was just a cup of coffee. But here's the secret. It was never just the coffee. It was the intention behind it. That barista didn't just pour a drink. They poured care, attention, kindness, and that made all the difference. Now contrast that with a high-ranking executive who does their job solely for the bonus. Cold, transactional, disconnected. People follow them out of fear, not inspiration. Yes, they may have the corner office and the six-figure salary, but they lack what truly elevates work, soul. You see, it's not what you do, it's how you do it, why you do it. This applies in every role. A teacher who stays after school to help the struggling student, even when they're not paid extra, is doing sacred work. A bus conductor who ensures every elderly person gets a seat with dignity is showing leadership, not just service. A mother preparing meals, wiping tears, folding laundry with love in her heart. She may never get awards, but her work sustains generations. When you bring intention to your role, no matter how unnoticed or uncelebrated, you are participating in something divine. Your work becomes a form of worship, a silent offering to the world. And let's be honest, most of life is made up of small things, small tasks, small gestures, small choices, but done consistently and done with heart. These small things shape who we are and how the world feels around us. Take the example of the mason laying bricks for a building. If you ask him what he's doing, one may say, "I'm stacking bricks." But another might say, "I'm building a school, a place where children will learn and grow." Same action, completely different vision. And that vision changes everything. Because when you believe your work matters, it starts to matter even more to you and to others. You become more present, more creative, more alive. You go from dragging your feet to walking with purpose. There's a saying, do small things with great love. Whether you're writing emails, packing parcels, washing dishes, or leading meetings, if you do it with attention, with pride, with service in your heart, it becomes something much bigger than itself. We live in a time where visibility is often mistaken for value. Applauded. But the real magic, that happens behind the scenes. The hospital runs because someone cleans the floors. The airport functions because someone checks the bags. The concert shines because someone set up the stage in the dark hours before the lights came on. And these people, these unseen hands, they are not small. They are essential. So if you ever find yourself thinking, my job doesn't matter, I want you to pause, breathe. What is my intention behind what I do? Because when your intention is to serve, to contribute, to uplift, then no work is beneath you, no act is wasted, no job is too small. You don't need a spotlight to shine. You just need to pour your heart into whatever you're doing, wherever you are. And when you do that, you'll find a joy that promotions can't buy. You'll sleep with peace in your heart, knowing that you gave your best not because someone was watching, but because you cared. That is the dignity of labor. That is the power of intention. And that is how even the smallest job becomes a masterpiece. There's a quiet but transformative power in consistency. A force so underestimated that people often overlook it in their chase for speed, success, and recognition. But in truth, consistency is the invisible thread that holds greatness together. You see, talent might give you a head start, inspiration might light a fire in you for a few days, but it's consistency that keeps the fire burning. It's consistency that builds legacies. Let me share with you a simple story. There was a young boy who wanted to learn to play the tabla. On the first day, he was filled with excitement. He practiced for hours, dreaming of one day performing on a grand stage. The second day, he still had the passion. The third day, his fingers began to hurt. Now, across the street was an old man, almost 70 years old, who also played the tabla. Every morning, without fail, he would sit for 1 hour and practice. Not because he had a performance, not because anyone was watching, but because he understood that discipline isn't about doing something when you feel like it. It's about doing it even when you don't. One day, the young boy asked him, "Uncle, why do you still practice every day when you already know how to play?" The old man smiled and said, "I practice not to show others what I can do, but to remind myself of who I am becoming. That's the secret. It's not the grand gestures that define your work. It's the small, consistent efforts done every single day. In a world obsessed with overnight success, we forget that overnight success is often years in the making. Ask any athlete who wins gold at the Olympics. The victory wasn't born the day they stood on the podium. It was born in the lonely mornings they woke up before sunrise, in the repetitions no one saw, in the sacrifices no one applauded. That's the unglamorous side of excellence, the daily grind. Now apply this to your own work, whether you're a teacher, an entrepreneur, a student, a creator. Your success is not about doing something extraordinary once. It's about doing the ordinary things with excellence, again and again, until they become your strength. Take the example of writing. Most best-selling authors didn't wake up and suddenly write a masterpiece in one sitting. They wrote badly first, then they wrote again, then they edited, then they rewrote day after day until their words sharpened, their voice strengthened, and their message became clear. It's not genius, it's grit. Or think about a gardener planting a seed. They water it daily even when nothing is visible. No sprouts, no signs of growth, just soil. But the gardener knows what's invisible now is simply preparing for its moment. And when it finally breaks through the surface, it grows with strength because the roots were built in silence. That's how your work is. Sometimes you'll feel like your efforts are unnoticed, like no one cares, like you're doing the same thing over and over and not getting anywhere. But those repetitions, those are your roots. That's where your character is being carved. Every time you show up, even when it's boring, you're training yourself in perseverance. Every time you stick to your routine, even when it's inconvenient, you're building self-respect. Every time you follow through on your word, you're building trust, both with others and with yourself. Because consistency isn't just about productivity, it's about integrity. It's saying, I'm going to honor my commitment, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. And when you live that way, something powerful happens. You begin to trust yourself more. Others begin to trust you too. Because people don't admire perfection, they admire dependability. Have you ever had a friend who always shows up no matter what? You value them deeply, not because they're the most entertaining, but because they're reliable. You know you can count on them. The same goes for your work. Your colleagues, clients, audience, they don't need you to be a superhero. They need you to be steady, to show up with your full self consistently, no matter the mood or moment. Even spiritually, in many traditions, it's said that daily practice is more powerful than rare, intense bursts of devotion, because it shows that you're not relying on emotion. You're choosing commitment. And commitment over time creates transformation. So the next time you feel discouraged because your efforts aren't showing immediate results, remind yourself, even the sunrise takes time to arrive, but it never fails to show up. Your job is not to be brilliant every day. Your job is to show up every day. To write one more page, to send one more email, to give one more smile, to hold on one more moment. Because in the long run, it's not the intensity of your effort that defines your success. It's the consistency of your presence. So keep showing up, keep practicing, keep building, and one day you'll look back and realize your consistency wasn't just shaping your work, it was shaping your destiny.